If you looked closely at the soles of my shoes, you would see the cardboard. It was a trick my father taught me before he passed. If the rubber wears thin and the pavement starts to bite your skin, a folded piece of a cereal box can buy you another week. My name is Maya. I am 24 years old, and I work for Ethelgard Holdings, one of the most prestigious investment firms in Seattle. My official title is Junior Analyst, which sounds impressive on LinkedIn. In reality, I am a glorified coffee runner who gets paid just enough to cover rent for a basement studio that smells like damp earth, and not enough to fix the shoes. Maya, the latte. Now. The voice cracked through the open-plan office like a whip. I flinched, nearly spilling the tray of coffees I was balancing. Coming, Mr. Thorne. Gavin Thorne. My boss. He was a man who looked like he was manufactured in a factory that specialized in expensive suits and teeth whitening. He was 35, drove a Porsche 911 that he parked diagonally across 2 handicap spots, and he had a reputation for making interns cry in the elevator. I hurried to his glass-walled office. The sign on the door read Gavin Thorne, Senior VP of Acquisitions. It should have read Gavin Thorne, Professional Soul Crusher. I placed the oat milk latte, extra hot, no foam, 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla, on his mahogany desk. He didn't look up. He was scrolling through his phone, a sneer plastered on his face. "It's cold," he said without touching the cup. I just got it from the machine, sir." "It's steaming," I stammered. He finally looked at me. His eyes were the color of dirty ice water. "If I say it's cold, Maya, it's cold. Just like your performance this quarter. Mediocre. Lukewarm. Disappointing." He picked up the cup and dropped it into the wastebasket next to him. The loud thud made me jump. "Go get another one. And this time try to look less like a wet dog. We have clients coming in at noon. Appearance is everything." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Yes, Mr. Thorne." I walked out of the office, feeling the eyes of the other employees on me. They pitied me, but they wouldn't help. In this building, kindness was viewed as a weakness. I went to the break room. My stomach growled a loud, angry protest. I hadn't eaten breakfast. I was saving my money for my mother's medication. She had early-onset arthritis, and the insurance didn't cover the good pills. I opened the communal fridge and stared at my lunch. It was a Tupperware container of lasagna. It wasn't just any lasagna. It was the last portion of the batch my mom had made on Sunday when her hands weren't hurting too bad. It was rich, cheesy, and smelled like home. It was the highlight of my day. The only thing that reminded me I was human and not just a robot designed to fetch coffee. I heated it up. The smell of basil and tomato sauce filled the sterile gray break room. I looked at the clock.
11:45 a.m.
I had 15 minutes before the clients arrived. Just enough time to eat this, recharge, and put on my armor for the rest of the day. But as I walked toward the back exit to find a quiet bench, Gavin didn't like junior staff eating in the main area because it cluttered the aesthetic. I saw him. Chapter 2: The Man in the Rain. It was pouring outside. A classic Seattle deluge that turned the world gray. Huddled under the concrete overhang of the building's delivery entrance was a man. He looked ancient. His beard was a tangled mess of silver and dirt. He wore a coat that was more holes than fabric, soaked through to the skin. He was shivering so violently that his teeth were chattering, a sound audible even over the rain. He was sitting on a flattened Amazon box, holding a sign that had dissolved into mush. All I could read was "hungry." Most people at Ethelgard walked past him like he was invisible. Or worse, they looked at him with disgust, as if his poverty was a contagious disease that might infect their Italian suits. I stopped. The warm Tupperware container was heavy in my hands. My stomach growled again. I was starving. I was dizzy with hunger. This lasagna was my fuel. If I didn't eat it, I would be running on fumes until dinner at 8 p.m. I looked at the lasagna. Then I looked at the man. He looked up. His eyes were surprising. They weren't cloudy or defeated. They were sharp, intelligent, and deeply, profoundly sad. He didn't ask for money. He didn't shake a cup. He just shivered. I sighed. I knew I couldn't eat. Not while he was shaking like that. My father used to say, "If you have more than you need, build a longer table, not a higher fence." I didn't have much, but I had this. I pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped out into the rain. "Excuse me," I said softly. The man flinched, pulling his knees to his chest. He expected to be yelled at. The security guards usually chased him off with pepper spray threats. I'm not causing trouble, miss, he rasped. His voice sounded like gravel. Just trying to stay dry. I know, I said. I crouched down, ignoring the rain soaking my blazer, the only nice one I owned. I'm not security. I held out the Tupperware. It's lasagna. Homemade. It's hot. The man looked at the container, then at my face. He seemed to be searching for a trick. A prank. For me, he whispered. Yes. Please take it. You look cold. He reached out with a trembling hand. His fingers were stained with ink and dirt. He took the container and opened it. The steam rose up, hitting his face. He closed his eyes and inhaled. It was the look of a man who hadn't smelled hot food in days. I don't have a fork, I realized, patting my pockets. Hands work, he smiled. It was a crooked, genuine smile. He took a bite, ignoring the heat. He ate with a desperation that broke my heart. Thank you, he said between bites. You have no idea. Thank you. It's okay, I said. My name is Maya. Arthur, he said. He wiped tomato sauce from his beard. You work in the glass tower, Maya? Yeah. Junior analyst. You don't look like the others, Arthur observed. He gestured with a piece of lasagna toward the revolving doors where slick executives were entering. They walk with their chins so high they would drown if it rained harder. You look down. I laughed, a bitter sound. I look at the ground because I'm checking for cracks in the pavement. Can't afford to trip. Arthur stopped eating for a second. He studied me. Hard times. Always, I shrugged. But hey, at least I'm inside, right? Kindness is a currency, Maya, Arthur said. His voice suddenly steady, almost authoritative. It's the only one that doesn't devalue. Remember that. It was a strange thing for a homeless man to say. It sounded like something a professor would say. But before I could ask him what he meant, the heavy metal door behind me slammed open. Chapter 3: The Vermin. Maya. The voice was a thunderclap. I spun around. Gavin Thorne was standing in the doorway. He wasn't alone. He was flanked by two of the firm's biggest clients. Men in suits that cost more than my student loans. Gavin's face was a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. What do you think you are doing? He hissed, stepping out into the rain, holding an umbrella over his head but offering none to me. I gestured to Arthur, who had stopped eating and was trying to make himself small against the wall. You are feeding the vermin? Gavin shouted. He turned to the clients, forcing a pained, apologetic smile. Gentlemen, I am so sorry. Good help is impossible to find these days. Some of our junior staff haven't quite grasped the Ethelgard standard of excellence. He turned back to me, the smile vanishing instantly. Maya, do you know what happens when you feed stray animals? He's a person, Mr. Thorne, I said, my voice shaking. His name is Arthur. He is a nuisance, Gavin roared. He creates a disturbance. He smells. And now, because of you, he will think he is welcome here. You are attracting rats, Maya. Literal and figurative rats. Arthur stood up slowly. He placed the half-empty Tupperware on the ground gently. There is no need for insults, Arthur said. His voice was calm, oddly dignified. I will leave. You're damn right you'll leave. Gavin stepped forward, kicking the Tupperware container. It skidded across the wet concrete. The lasagna, my mother's lasagna, spilled out into a muddy puddle. The red sauce mixed with the dirty rainwater. I gasped. Mr. Thorne. That was unnecessary. Gavin looked at the ruined food, then at me. He smoothed his tie. You know what else is unnecessary, Maya? You. The world seemed to stop. The rain pounded against my ears. Excuse me. You're fired, Gavin said. He checked his Rolex. Effective immediately. Get your box. Get your trash. And get out of my building. You can't fire me for giving a man lunch, I whispered. Tears were stinging my eyes, hot and fast. I can fire you for misuse of company time, Gavin smirked. For loitering. For creating a security risk. For insubordination. Take your pick. Washington is an at-will employment state, darling. I don't need a reason. I just need you gone. He looked at the clients. Shall we go inside, gentlemen? I have a lovely 12-year-old Scotch waiting in my office, far away from the stench. The clients laughed uncomfortably and followed him inside. The heavy door clicked shut. I was left standing in the rain. Fired. Broke. Humiliated. I looked at the spilled lasagna. The waste of it made me sob. It was such a small thing, but it represented everything I had lost. My dignity. My safety net. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Arthur. I am sorry, he said quietly. This is my fault. I wiped my eyes, smearing mascara down my cheeks. No. No, it's not. He's just a monster. He's always been a monster. Today he just took the mask off. He kicked your food, Arthur said, staring at the red puddle. His jaw tightened. The sad look in his eyes was gone, replaced by a cold, hard glint. It was the look of a general surveying a battlefield. It doesn't matter, I sniffled. I have to go pack my desk before security drags me out. Maya, Arthur said. I turned to him. He was standing straighter now. He didn't look like a shivering old man anymore. He looked furious. Do you have your phone? He asked. My phone? Yeah. Why? Give me your number. What? I laughed nervously. Arthur, I appreciate the thought, but I don't think. Please, he insisted. You fed me. You lost your livelihood for me. Allow me to return the favor. I didn't know why, maybe it was the shock, or maybe it was the intensity in his eyes, but I pulled out my cracked iPhone. I gave him my number. He didn't write it down. He memorized it instantly. Go inside, Arthur said. Pack your things slowly. Take your time. Don't let them see you cry. What are you going to do? I asked, worried he might try to fight Gavin and get arrested. Arthur reached into the deep, tattered pocket of his coat. I expected him to pull out a rag or a bottle. Instead, he pulled out a phone. It wasn't a burner phone. It wasn't a cracked Android from 5 years ago. It was the latest model satellite phone. Matte black. Expensive. The kind of tech that government agents or billionaires use. He wiped the rain off the screen with his thumb. What am I going to do? Arthur repeated. He looked at the glass tower of Ethelgard Holdings, his eyes fixing on the top floor, the penthouse suite. I'm going to make a call, he said. And I'm going to call in a pest control service. Because your boss was right about one thing, Maya. He unlocked the phone. There are rats in this building. And it's time to exterminate them. The elevator ride up to the 40th floor took 45 seconds. I counted every one of them to keep from screaming. When the doors slid open, the office hummed with the quiet, expensive sound of productivity. Phones chirping softly, keyboards clacking, the low murmur of deals being struck. It was a world I had fought so hard to enter. And now, I was a ghost walking through it. I walked to my cubicle, a tiny gray square in a sea of gray squares. My hands were shaking as I reached for a cardboard box. Maya. I looked up. It was Chloe, the receptionist. She was one of the few people here who actually learned my name. I heard, she whispered, glancing nervously toward Gavin's office. Is it true? Did he really fire you for lunch? He fired me for existing, Chloe, I said, putting a framed photo of my mom into the box. The lunch was just the excuse. You have to hurry, Chloe hissed, her eyes wide. He's on a warpath. He just called HR. He told them to mark your file as gross misconduct. Maya, that means you won't get severance. And it means I can't get hired at any other firm in the city. I finished for her. My stomach dropped. Gross misconduct. It was the corporate death sentence. It was a lie, but it was a lie told by a senior VP. Who would believe the junior analyst? I'm sorry, Chloe whispered, scurrying back to her desk as Gavin's door opened. Gavin stepped out. He had a glass of scotch in his hand. He looked at me packing my box, and a slow, cruel smile spread across his face. Security will escort you out in 5 minutes, Gavin announced loudly, making sure the entire floor could hear. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Ethelgard Holdings is a place for winners. We do not tolerate mediocrity, and we certainly do not tolerate hygiene risks. He took a sip of his scotch. Oh, and Maya? Don't bother applying to Vanguard or Smith & Klein. I play golf with their hiring managers on Sundays. I've already sent a text. You're radioactive. He wasn't just firing me. He was hunting me for sport. He wanted to make sure I starved, just so he could feel powerful. I gripped the sides of my box until my knuckles turned white. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my stapler at his perfect teeth. But I didn't. I had to think of my mom. If I got arrested for assault, who would pay for her meds? Goodbye, Mr. Thorne, I said quietly. Get out, he sneered. I turned to the elevator. The doors opened. 2 large security guards stepped out. They weren't smiling. Ms. Lin, one of them said. Please come with us. They grabbed my arms, not gently. They marched me out like a criminal. I saw the smirks on the faces of my coworkers. I saw Gavin raising his glass in a mock toast. As the elevator doors closed, shutting out his laughing face, I felt a vibration in my pocket. It wasn't a text. It was a call. From an unknown number. I shook off the guard's hand and answered it. Hello. Maya. It was Arthur. The homeless man. His voice sounded different now. Clearer. Harder. Arthur. I whispered. I'm being escorted out. I know, Arthur said. I'm watching on the security feed. I blinked. What? How? Listen to me very carefully, Maya. Do not leave the building. When you get to the lobby, stop. Wait by the fountain. I can't. I hissed. The guards are throwing me out. The guards work for Ethelgard, Arthur said. And in about 3 minutes, they are going to receive new orders. Just wait. And Maya? Yes. I hope you're hungry. Because we have a board meeting to attend. And I believe you're due for a promotion. Chapter 5. The Intruder. The lobby of the Ethelgard building was a cathedral of glass and marble. A massive fountain in the center sprayed water that smelled of chlorine and money. The guards marched me toward the revolving doors. Move it, the lead guard grunted. Wait. I planted my feet. I need to tie my shoe. Tie it outside, he shoved me. Suddenly, the guard's radio crackled. A piercing screech of static cut through the air, followed by a voice. It wasn't the usual dispatch voice. It was deep, authoritative, and old. Code 0. Override. Secure the lobby. No one leaves. No one enters. The guards froze. They looked at each other. Code 0, the rookie guard asked. I thought that was a myth. That's the Founder's protocol. Who authorized this? The lead guard shouted into his radio. The radio didn't answer. Instead, the revolving door stopped spinning. The automatic locks on the side exits slammed shut with a heavy thud thud thud. The building was on lockdown. What is going on? The guard yelled. Then the elevator chime rang. Not the main elevators. The private elevator. The single, gold-plated elevator in the far corner that required a retinal scan to even summon. The one that nobody used because the CEO, Mr. Ethelgard, hadn't been seen in public for 5 years. The doors slid open. There was no security team inside. There was no entourage. There was just Arthur. But he didn't look like the man I had met in the alley. He was still wearing the dirty, tattered coat. His beard was still matted. His shoes were still held together with tape. He still smelled of rain and old cardboard. But he walked differently. He walked out of that gold elevator with the stride of a lion walking through tall grass. He held the high-tech satellite phone in one hand. In the other he held a cane. An ivory-handled cane that I recognized from the oil painting hanging in the main boardroom. The guards drew their tasers. Sir, the lead guard shouted, panicked. Step away from the elevator. Put your hands up. Arthur didn't stop. He walked straight toward me. The guards rushed to intercept him. Stand down, Sergeant Miller, Arthur said. He didn't shout. He just spoke. The lead guard, Miller, skidded to a halt. His eyes bulged. He stared at the dirty, homeless man. He looked at the beard, then at the eyes. Mr. Blackwood. Miller whispered. The taser dropped from his hand and clattered on the marble floor. Blackwood. I gasped. Everyone knew the name. Arthur Blackwood. The founder of Ethelgard Holdings. The billionaire recluse who built this city. The man who vanished 5 years ago after his wife died. leaving the board of directors to run the company. Rumors said he was on a private island. Others said he was dead. Nobody said he was sleeping behind the dumpsters of his own building. "Hello, Miller," Arthur said calmly. "You've put on weight. The uniform is tight." "Sir, we didn't know," Miller stammered, pale as a sheet. "We tried to chase you off the property last week. We pepper sprayed you." "I recall," Arthur said dryly. "It stung." He turned to me. The softness returned to his eyes. "Maya, are you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded, clutching my box of belongings. "Good," Arthur said. He turned back to the elevators. "Come with me. We have a meeting with Gavin." "But sir," Miller interrupted, his voice trembling. "Mr. Thorne is with the Japanese investors. He gave strict orders not to be disturbed." Arthur smiled. It was a terrifying smile. "Oh, he's going to be disturbed, Miller. He is going to be very disturbed." Arthur pressed the button for the penthouse. He gestured for me to step in. I stepped into the gold elevator next to the homeless billionaire. The doors closed, sealing us in. "Arthur," I whispered as we began to rise. "Why? Why the disguise? Why the street?" He looked at his reflection in the polished brass doors, a dirty, broken man staring back. "Because Maya," he sighed, looking tired. "When you are rich, people only show you their masks. They show you what they want you to see. I needed to see the truth. I needed to see how my company treats the invisible people. I needed to see who would stop to feed a starving old man." He looked at me. "In 5 years, thousands of employees walked past me. Only you stopped." The elevator dinged. "Floor 50, the automated voice said. "Executive suites." Arthur straightened his tattered coat. He gripped his cane. "Ready?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Chapter 6. The boardroom. Gavin Thorne was in his element. He stood at the head of the massive obsidian conference table, gesturing at a projection screen filled with graphs that went up and to the right. "As you can see, gentlemen," Gavin purred, addressing the 3 Japanese investors, "efficiency is up 200%. We have trimmed the fat. We have eliminated the weak links. Ethelgard is leaner and meaner than ever." He poured himself another scotch. He felt invincible. He had just fired that annoying girl Maya. He was about to close a billion-dollar merger. He was the king of Seattle. The heavy double doors of the boardroom burst open. Gavin spun around, furious. I said, "No interruptions." "Which incompetent assistant is?" The words died in his throat. Standing in the doorway was the homeless man he had kicked an hour ago. And standing next to him was Maya, holding her cardboard box. The smell of wet wool and unwashed body drifted into the air-conditioned room, clashing with the expensive cologne. The investors looked confused. They exchanged whispers in Japanese. "What is this?" Gavin roared. His face turned purple. "Security! Security! Security isn't coming, Gavin," Arthur said. His voice echoed off the walls. He limped into the room, his muddy boots leaving prints on the plush white carpet. "You!" Gavin laughed in disbelief. "The rat! You came back? And you brought the girl? This is rich. This is hilarious." He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police. I'm going to have you both arrested for trespassing and harassment." "Put the phone down, Gavin," Arthur said. He walked to the head of the table. "Excuse me." Gavin stepped forward, towering over Arthur. "You get out of my face, you filthy hobo, before I." Arthur lifted his cane and slammed it onto the obsidian table. Crack. The sound was like a gunshot. The glass of scotch on the table jumped and spilled. "I said." Arthur's voice dropped to a low, dangerous growl. "Put the phone down. And sit in your chair. You are embarrassing me in front of our guests." Gavin froze. There was something in the voice. A cadence. A familiarity. He looked at the cane. The ivory handle was carved in the shape of a wolf. Gavin looked at the oil painting on the wall behind him. The portrait of the founder. The man in the painting was holding that exact cane. Gavin looked back at the homeless man. He looked past the beard. Past the dirt. He saw the eyes. "No," Gavin whispered. "It's impossible. You're dead." "I was merely dormant," Arthur said. Arthur turned to the Japanese investors. He bowed perfectly, deep and respectful. Then he spoke to them in fluent, flawless Japanese. Gomen nasai.
Watashi no sign wa shitsurei desita.
I apologize. My employee was rude. The investors' eyes went wide. They stood up immediately and bowed back, recognizing the voice of the legend they had done business with decades ago. Blackwood-san, the lead investor gasped.
Hai a tua nốt đét.
Gavin staggered back, hitting the wall. Mr. Blackwood? I kicked your lunch. Yes, Arthur said pleasantly. He walked over to Gavin's chair, the big leather chair at the head of the table. He sat down in it, dirty coat and all. He spun it around to face Gavin. You kicked my lasagna. It was a very good lasagna, Gavin. Maya's mother made it. Sir, I didn't know. Gavin started sweating. It was a test. I was protecting the building. You have to understand, appearance is everything. I did it for the brand. For the brand, Arthur repeated. He pulled out his satellite phone. You fired this young woman for showing compassion, Arthur said, pointing at me. You insulted her. You blacklisted her. You called her a rat. She broke protocol. Gavin squeaked. Protocol. Arthur laughed. It was a cold sound. I built this company on a handshake and a promise, Gavin. Not on protocol. I built it on trust. Who trusts a man who kicks a starving elder in the rain? Arthur tapped the screen of his phone. I have been reviewing your files, Gavin. Since I reactivated my admin access 10 minutes ago. It seems efficiency to you means cutting employee healthcare. It seems trimming fat means firing pregnant women before their maternity leave kicks in. That's just business. Gavin pleaded. I made us profitable. You made us soulless, Arthur corrected. Arthur looked at Gavin. Do you have your phone, Gavin? Yes. Gavin patted his pocket, trembling. Check it. What? Check your messages. I just sent you something. Gavin pulled out his sleek latest model iPhone. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped it. The screen lit up. A single text message notification. From System Admin Arthur Blackwood. Gavin stared at the screen. He turned pale. He looked up at Arthur. Read it out loud, Arthur commanded. I can't. Read it. Arthur roared, slamming his hand on the table. Gavin swallowed. He looked at the phone. He read in a whisper. Employment status terminated. Reason moral bankruptcy. Severance. $0. Effective now. Gavin looked up, tears of panic in his eyes. Sir, please. I have a mortgage. I have a Porsche lease. You can't leave me with nothing. Arthur stood up. He walked over to Gavin. You told Maya she was radioactive, Arthur said softly. You told her she would never work in this city again. Arthur leaned in close. I just forwarded that text to every CEO in the Fortune 500, along with the security footage of you kicking my lunch. You wanted to be famous, Gavin? Congratulations. You're about to go viral. Arthur turned to security. Miller and his team had arrived, standing in the doorway, unsure of what to do. Miller, Arthur said. Yes, Mr. Blackwood? Escort Mr. Thorne out. He has 5 minutes to clear his desk. If he takes longer, throw his things in the fountain. Yes, sir. Miller grinned. He grabbed Gavin by the arm. No, you can't do this. I am the VP. I am Ethelgard. Gavin screamed as he was dragged out of the room, his heels dragging on the carpet. The boardroom went silent. Arthur turned to me. He looked tired again. The adrenaline was fading. I apologize for the drama, Maya, he said. I usually prefer a quieter approach. I breathed out. That was justice. Arthur smiled. He looked at the Japanese investors, then back at me. Maya, do you still have that box? Yes. I held up my sad little cardboard box. Good. Put it down. You won't be needing it. He gestured to the empty chair, Gavin's chair. Sit down, Maya. What? I blinked. That's the VP's chair. Not anymore, Arthur said. We have a meeting to finish. And I need a new vice president. Someone who knows that people are more important than profits. He looked at me with those sharp, kind eyes. Are you busy for the next 20 years? The leather chair was still warm from Gavin's body, but it felt colder than ice. I sat at the head of the obsidian table, clutching my cardboard box like a life raft. The Japanese investors were staring at me. Arthur Blackwood, the billionaire legend, was standing behind me like a bodyguard. "Well," Arthur prompted gently. "The merger, Maya. You read the files. I saw you reading them in the break room when you thought no one was looking. What is your assessment?" My throat was dry. I looked at the projection screen. The graph showed profit margins, asset liquidation, and headcount reduction. Gavin's plan was to buy the Japanese tech firm, fire 40% of their staff, and sell off their patents. It was profitable. It was cruel. It's a mistake," I whispered. "Speak up," Arthur commanded. "You are the vice president now. Your voice carries weight." I took a deep breath. I thought of my father. I thought of the lasagna on the wet pavement. "It's a mistake," I said louder. I looked directly at the lead investor, Tanaka-san. "Mr. Thorne's plan relies on gutting your R&D department. He thinks your value is in the patents. But I've read your employee satisfaction reports. Your value is in your people. Your engineers have been with you for 20 years. If we fire them, the patents become worthless because there is no one left who knows how to innovate them." The room went silent. "What do you propose?" Tanaka-san asked, leaning forward. "We keep everyone," I said. "We cut the executive bonuses, starting with the one Gavin allocated for himself, and we reinvest that into your R&D. We build a longer table, not a higher fence." Arthur smiled. It was the proudest smile I had ever seen. Tanaka-san looked at his colleagues. They whispered rapidly. Then Tanaka-san turned to me and bowed his head. "We accept," he said. "We have been worried about Mr. Thorne's aggression. This feels like a partnership." Just like that, I saved 400 jobs. Arthur clapped his hand on my shoulder. "Meeting adjourned. Maya, you have work to do. But first, let's get you a real office. And maybe some shoes that don't have cardboard in them." Chapter 8. The Karma Cafe. 2 days later, the video went viral. Arthur hadn't been bluffing. The security footage of Gavin kicking the food out of a homeless man's hands hit the internet like a nuclear bomb. The title was simple: Corporate Greed versus Human Decency. It had 10 million views in 24 hours. Gavin Thorne became the most hated man in America. #FireGavin trended on Twitter. I didn't see him for a week. I was too busy trying to keep my head above water in my new role. Arthur stayed by my side, guiding me, teaching me the ropes. He shaved the beard, cut his hair, and put on a suit, but he kept the cane. He said it reminded him of the ground. One rainy Tuesday, I walked out of the Ethelgard building. I was wearing a new coat, warm, waterproof, and paid for with my first paycheck. I stopped by the same coffee shop where I used to buy Gavin's lattes. I saw a man sitting outside on the wet bench. He was wearing a suit, but it was wrinkled. He looked unshaven. He was staring blankly at his phone. It was Gavin. He looked up and saw me. His eyes were red-rimmed. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Maya," he croaked. I stopped. "Hello, Gavin." "They took everything," he whispered, staring at his hands. "The bank foreclosed on my condo this morning. The Porsche was leased, they towed it. My girlfriend left me. My friends won't return my calls." He laughed, a jagged, broken sound. "I applied for a job at a consulting firm yesterday. The hiring manager just laughed and played the video of me kicking the lasagna. He told me to get out." "I'm sorry," I said. And I meant it. Unlike him, I didn't enjoy seeing people suffer. "Are you?" He looked at me with venom. "You stole my life. That should have been my merger. That was my chair. You lost the chair the moment you forgot that people matter," I said softly. "I need money," he begged, his pride finally breaking. "Maya, please. I have nothing. Can you talk to Arthur? Get me a severance package? Anything." I looked at him. I remembered the way he sneered at me in the elevator. I remembered the radioactive comment. I reached into my bag. Gavin's eyes lit up. He thought I was pulling out a checkbook. Instead, I pulled out a brown paper bag. Inside was a sandwich I had bought for lunch. "I can't give you a job, Gavin," I said. "But I can give you this." I held out the sandwich. Gavin stared at it. His face turned crimson. You're mocking me. No, I said. I'm feeding you. You look hungry. He slapped the sandwich out of my hand, fell into a puddle. I don't need your charity, he screamed. I am Gavin Thorne. No, I said, looking at the ruined sandwich. You're just a man in the rain now. And until you learn to pick that sandwich up and say thank you, you're going to stay cold. I walked away. I didn't look back. I left him screaming at the rain, trapped in the prison of his own ego. Chapter 9. The Secret of the Streets. A month later, things had settled. I was no longer the interim VP. I was the VP. My mom was doing better. With my new insurance, she was seeing a specialist. She could walk without pain for the first time in years. One evening, I found Arthur in his office, the real one, the penthouse suite. He was looking out the window at the city lights. Arthur. I knocked on the glass door. Come in, Maya. I sat down. I've been meaning to ask you. Why did you do it? Why did you disappear for 5 years? Why live on the street? Arthur sighed. He turned around. He looked older than his 55 years. My wife Elena, he said softly. She died of cancer 5 years ago. We had all the money in the world, Maya. Best doctors. Best hospitals. But I couldn't save her. He tapped his cane on the floor. After she died, I felt numb. I sat in this tower making millions and I felt nothing. I realized I had built a fortress to keep the world out. I started to despise the wealth. I wanted to know if I was still a man without it, or if I was just a wallet. So you walked away, I said. I walked away. I lived in shelters.
I slept under bridge.
I saw the ugly side of this city. I saw how people look at you when you have nothing. They look right through you. He smiled at me. I was ready to give up on this company, Maya. I was going to sell it, liquidate it, and vanish for good. I thought Ethelgard had become a monster. I thought everyone here was like Gavin. But then a girl with holes in her shoes walked out into the rain, Arthur said, his eyes misting over. And she offered me her last meal. She didn't know who I was. She didn't want anything. She just wanted me to be warm. He reached across the desk and took my hand. You saved me, Maya. You reminded me that there is still good in this marble tower. That's why I came back. Not for the money, but to make sure people like you are the ones running the world. Chapter 10. The Longer Table. 1 year later. The Ethelgard annual gala was usually a stuffy affair with caviar and champagne. This year it was different. We held it in the park. We set up massive tents. We invited the city's elite, yes. But we also invited the residents of the local shelters. We invited the staff, the janitors, the receptionists, the interns. There was no VIP section. Everyone sat together. I stood at the podium. I wore a beautiful dress, but I wore comfortable shoes. No carbe. Welcome, I said into the microphone. My friend Arthur taught me that kindness is a currency that never devalues. Tonight, we are investing in our community. I looked out at the crowd. I saw my mom laughing with Tanaka-san. I saw Chloe, the receptionist, now the head of HR, dancing with her husband. And I saw Arthur. He was sitting at a long wooden table. He was laughing, sharing a plate of food with a man who looked very much like Arthur used to look. Tattered coat, wild beard. Arthur saw me looking. He raised a glass to me. I walked off the stage and went to join him. Good speech, boss, Arthur grinned. I learned from the best, I said. I looked at the man next to him. Maya. I'm Joe, the homeless man said shyly. Nice to meet you, Joe, I said. Are you hungry? Starving, miss. I grabbed a large platter from the center of the table. It wasn't caviar. It wasn't foie gras. It was lasagna. My mom's recipe. We had the caterers make 500 trays of it. Here, I said, serving him a massive slice. It's homemade. It's hot. Joe took a bite. He closed his eyes, savoring it. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me, I smiled, looking at Arthur. Thank the man who built the table. Arthur winked at me. Pass the Parmesan, Maya, he said. We have work to do. As I sat there, eating lasagna under the stars, surrounded by billionaires and beggars breaking bread together, I realized that Gavin was wrong about everything. This wasn't a world of winners and losers. It was a world of hungry people. And as long as I was in charge, nobody at Ethelgard would ever eat alone in the rain again. The end.